All right, welcome to Believe in Rams, presented by FanDuel. Check out FanDuel Sportsbook for all of your needs, by the way. A very highly anticipated game going down September 10th in Melbourne. By the way, that's the proper way to say it. Omar Ruiz from ESPN NFL Network. He is up in Santa Clara. Perfect time to have you, Omar, because I have been seeing you around Rams camp. And really, I wanted to make this all about what's been going on in Los Angeles, but now you're getting some tea up in Santa Clara. First and foremost, how are you?
I'm well, Aaron. It's that time of year where we celebrate football. It's back together weekend on NFL Network and ESPN, as you
Right.
mentioned, and for all the drama of the off season, for all the business aspect of football that we cover, in March and April and May and June. When we get to July, when we get to August, and we start focusing on football, that is when it all comes to life. So it's awesome to be here. Awesome to have been at Rams camp earlier this week. Speaking of the NFC West, was started the journey with the Arizona Cardinals, now at the Niners. So it's going to be a fascinating division, a fascinating game, as you alluded to in Melbourne, and excited to be with you here today.
Well, what's been the reaction? There was some talk about how the Niners are feeling. I saw maybe that hit on Omar's social, or maybe it was just on the big screen. How are the 49ers feeling about Aaron Donald possibly returning? Did they seem excited about it?
Well, that hasn't been mentioned. I know John Lynch did talk about Myles Garrett, and he shared
Oh,
a
that's right.
he shared a funny anecdote about meeting with Kyle Shanahan, and they were talking about John Wooden, taking lessons from him, the legendary UCLA basketball coach. And John Wooden used to say, "Don't worry about what your opponents are doing. Let your opponents worry about what you're doing." And they were having this meeting when the news came down that Myles Garrett was getting traded to the Rams, and then Kyle says, "F John Wooden, I'm worrying about the Rams." So obviously,
Yep.
that is enough to deal with the Rams getting Myles Garrett, potentially Aaron Donald down the road. We'll see. That hasn't been addressed up
Yeah.
here yet, at least publicly.
Right. I'm sorry. It was the first big name defensively on the front that they were upset about, or potentially upset about. Not the second, because we still don't know about Aaron Donald. We are on Aaron Donald watch, but I don't know if you got a chance to catch Sean McVay's presser. I believe it was yesterday when he was asked, and he had said, "Look, there's no new news, although it is trending upwards potentially." But here's the thing that you and I were talking about when we were at Rams camp. When would it potentially happen? It's not looking like, if Aaron Donald does return, that it's going to happen until they go back to Woodland Hills.
It sounds that's the case, and even if he came back the first week of the season when they get into that final preparation for the Niners, I think he would be okay. If memory serves me, in 2017, 2018, when he was having those holdouts and Sean McVay was first the head coach, he didn't report to camp. I think he even missed the first game of the Sean McVay era, if memory serves me correct, against the Colts, and the Rams blasted their opponent, and Sean McVay era got off to a great start without Aaron Donald. Then he comes in and plays, Defensive Player of the Year. I think he won his first two Defensive Player of the Year awards under those circumstances. So he knows how to ramp up. He knows how to get his body ready. He knows how to
Mhm.
get his mind ready. So whether he comes back in a couple weeks when they're back at Woodland Hills, whether he comes back before the Niners game, whenever he decides to come back, if he decides to come back, Aaron Donald, you better believe, will be ready and ready to wreak havoc
Yep.
on the football field.
Yep. Omar Ruiz, ESPN's, covering both teams, which has been really fun to have you at Rams camp. I know you're about to do a Niners hit, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but a couple of questions. Since I've seen you at Rams camp, for you, what's the thing that you've been noticing that surprised you, or what are you looking for? Because there's so many storylines outside of just Aaron Donald. What have you sort of absorbed now that you've been at Rams camp as well?
Well, just how good Matthew Stafford looks. And,
Mm,
we were all wondering if he was even going to play last season because of the back
yeah.
issue, and how worrisome that seemed to be during training camp. And all he does is go out and win the MVP and lead a
Mhm.
tremendous Rams season last year. When I was at practice earlier this week, he was clicking on all cylinders, picking up right where
Yeah.
he left off with that MVP form, hitting Puka Nakua in stride, dropping
Mhm.
dimes right in between defenders, perfectly placing balls, explosive plays with Devontae Adams. So he was just, seemed to be already at that elite caliber play that we've seen from him over the years. So if that's how he's starting, you could only imagine, the
Yeah.
potential for this Rams team, and especially with Puka locked in, hoping for a new
Mhm.
contract, and Devontae Adams seemingly healthy. It's all there for the Rams. So that's my impression. And talking to Sean McVay and how they manage these expectations, because they're going to be enormous.
Mhm.
And I said this on NFL Network the other day. This is the type of team that's going to be so good that when they lose, if they lose, we're going to be,
If
what's
they
wrong
lose.
with the Rams? And
Yeah.
these guys are human. It's only natural to see the coverage and social media, and how Sean McVay coaches against that. And his response basically was, "We don't give a shit what you guys
Yeah.
think. We're going to lock in. We're going to focus on the work. We're going to try to get better every single day." And they understand the process of it. And they have enough experience. They've won enough games. They've won enough postseason
Mhm.
games at this point with all these players that I have no problem believing that they're going to be able to focus and weather any storm, and they'll ultimately be judged by what they do in January, potentially February.
It's so funny how the little things stick with you. I still remember when a rideshare driver didn't just drop me off, but they carried my luggage all the way to my front door. They didn't have to do that, but that extra effort, of course, left a lasting impression. The same thing with hiring. The people who go the extra step, often the ones you remember most, which is why I like ZipRecruiter. Candidates can actually tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job, helping them, of course, obviously stand out. Plus, ZipRecruiter's new feature puts the most interested, qualified candidates at the very top. So you can meet the right people, obviously, as fast as possible, because this world is not slowing down for anybody. Try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. 4 out of 5, by the way, employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. That's ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, meet your match. Yeah, and that was one of the things I actually thought about myself. I was like, I'm not going to watch how this team does when they win. I'm actually curious the most how they end up handling the adversity, because that was kind of the big conversation point of last season, which is adversity shapes you. It's good callous. I mean, that's to me how Sean McVay is trying to embrace and teach when you are building and maintaining a championship level team, and you bring in veterans and young guys, Devontae, Puka, and CJ Daniels. I think that the thing that's happening in Los Angeles is very interesting. And speaking of which, Ty Simpson, the rookie. I mean, he's only now this is the Rams are now entering their second block of training camp. Pads are officially on now. What is your impressions of Ty Simpson, and what do you think personally, Omar? A Ty Simpson or just any kind of rookie quarterback. What is the biggest challenge when you get into a Sean McVay led offense?
Well, I think he's in a perfect situation in that he's able to study under an MVP. There's no pressure essentially on him as of now. The way that they would manage Matthew Stafford's workload, his health, and he could really just learn the offense, all aspects of it, become a master of it. Because as you alluded to, Sean McVay's system is intricate, it's detailed. There's a lot for him to know and to learn.
Mhm.
But for him to have to do it without the spotlight, without being in a pressure cooker of having to play, for a Super Bowl contender right away, is something that will only benefit his career. So, my impressions of him, he's a lot bigger. Seeing him in person that I
Oh yeah.
anticipated in terms of he's not tall, but he's thicker, and it reminds me of seeing Baker Mayfield in person. Baker Mayfield, kind of a shorter quarterback, but he's real thick and solid. And Simpson, his legs kind of like tree trunks. So to have that foundation there for when he's in the pocket to drive the football down the field, seems to obviously be to his benefit. But those are my
Mhm.
impressions of Ty Simpson, expectations for him, and you would imagine that at this point, they'll have him ready to play if, and obviously they hope that they don't have to call him into action. But if they did, I would imagine they'll have him ready.
What is the biggest thing that Rams fans should be concerned about with this sort of Avenger-like team that's being constructed in LA?
Well, just how the defense comes together, because obviously that was some of the question marks last year, and with it retooled with Myles Garrett now and Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, a lot of new players there. Quentin Lake returning and kind of getting everybody on the same page. You would imagine him will take the forefront of that effort and just making sure that they're ready to go week one against the 49ers, and there's no growing pains or taking time to gel in that regard. So, because, like I said, that defense the offense was locked in. Matthew Stafford was in MVP form, but how quickly the defense comes together would be the only thing. But
Yeah.
that's like first world problems right there when we're talking about how a defense with Myles Garrett is going to come together and how quickly it can. Definitely, problems the Rams would love to have.
Yeah, and Trent McDuffie, I mean, he's been somehow massively overshadowed, and he was like the offseason addition darling during free agency. Okay, last question, because I know you need to run. So you're with the Niners, you're up at the camp. What is the thing that you're going to be looking at? And what do you think that the Niners, in terms of what are they trying to bring together, work on? Do they feel like the Rams right now are the biggest competition, or could it be the Super Bowl reigning champs, Seattle? I mean, that division is stacked from top to bottom.
I would imagine they'd see the Seahawks as the sort of biggest challenge, because you look at the last couple losses for the Niners, both in the divisional round of the playoffs and then the Week 18 showdown where the number one seed was on the line. The 49ers scored a combined 9 points in those games. So it's trying to be more explosive in the offense. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously they went out and got Mike Evans with the first
Mm-hmm.
pick of the second round. They got Dejon Stribling, who's been a star so far in training camp, the rookie. Debo Samuel is now
Mm-hmm.
returning. He's expected out at practice today for the first time. So reshaping that receiver room, becoming more explosive in that regard. They drafted Kalen Black as a backup running back to Christian McCaffrey to spell CMC at times. So I think restoring the offense to not just an efficient offense, which it's going to be with Kyle Shanahan, but can it be an explosive offense? I think that's what they'll work on, and those will be the difference makers against a team like Seattle that was so suffocating down the stretch en route to a Super Bowl win.
Mm-hmm.
If you can beat them with downfield plays, the explosive run game, that's the way to beat one of those type of teams, and I think that's what they'd be focused on right now.
Omar Ruiz, I always love seeing you at Rams camp. Hopefully, you're going to be down soon, right? We need you down there in Los Angeles. Quick little field trip up in LA, or excuse me, Santa Clara with the 49ers at camp today. Check out obviously his reports on ESPN, but your social media game, I like it. You're crushing it on there. So Omar, thank you for making time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron. Great to see you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Omar.